That was literally one of the best weekend events that I've been to, probably full stop. Like, not many competitions or events actually compared to long course weekend on the weekend. It was insane. Like, for a domestic race, let's remember, this wasn't like a professional or a massive organisation race like Ironman or Challenge. It was Activity Wales, long course weekend as the brand partner. Unbelievable atmosphere and kind of just event setup with an athlete village, everything. Fair play, like, to the people who did it, to the organisations, unbelievable, would highly recommend. But in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to talk about why I did this event 2 weeks out from Roth and whether or not it was a good idea. Have I left my race in effectively training, which this weekend kind of was about. It's just getting that race simulation sort of vibe, that idea of practicing the race situations, powers, paces, nutrition within training, but obviously it wasn't training, it was also a race. So I'm going to walk you through that step by step, what's the pros and cons, and how the whole weekend went. So first things first, why did I do it? I wanted to simulate a full distance triathlon, and if you don't know, long course weekend is a full distance triathlon over 3 days. So effectively you do the swim on the Friday, the bike distance on the Saturday, and the run on the Sunday. So to make this a little bit more realistic, what I did was swam on the Friday, 3.8k swim. It's a race, it's open water, really choppy conditions, amazing. We'll go into that in a minute. And then on the Saturday, the bike ride, which I did a little 10-kilometer run off just to get, again, that feeling of running off the bike after 4 and a bit hours, 4:44, I think it was, 4 hours 44. And then again on the Sunday, I did a little ride before the marathon as well, just again to simulate what it feels like to run off of a little bike. I know it's not quite the same, but you get the fatigue from the day before as well. So yeah, it's all about kind of getting those race feels without having a massive hit on one day. In the past, I've done this on my own / with one other, just Fred. I did that before Portugal Cascais last year, and I found it really beneficial. You learn so much from the simulation that actually you can take a lot into the race itself. So for example, in this one, I know that I need to keep on top of hydration if it's warm. If it's not warm, I'm okay. It's not too bad at all. I can kind of handle it. My nutrition was on point, I think. My powers and paces are probably here or thereabouts, apart from the marathon. But yeah, I really need to stay on top of hydration. So that's kind of the purpose of doing these simulation days. But instead of doing it on my own this time round, long course weekend fit really well into kind of my lead up to Roth. So I wanted to use it because I knew the atmosphere would help me. I hoped to kind of use the people around me to get me through it, because obviously the motivation of these big days is actually quite difficult to get through. So yeah, use those people. I had a great little ding dong with Liam throughout the whole weekend, and yeah, no, it was just really, really good and useful to use those people around me, because otherwise, yeah, it is a long day. It's quite mentally tough to get through just on your own. So I turned up, I was a little bit late, and we registered literally at the last possible point that we could register, Em and I, because Em wanted to do the swim as well. She did the full long course swim, so 3.8k. She hadn't done any training. She is historically a swimmer, but she hadn't done any training for this. And it was the choppiest conditions that I've swam in a very, very long time. So I got halfway around the swim and I was like, God, I hope she's okay. It was that rough that I was like, I would not blame her for getting out of the Aussie exit, because it was 2 laps. First lap, Nathan was one of the fastest swimmers well, he was the fastest swimmer on the day by a long way. Just bolted off straight from the gun. And I was like, well, not gonna be able to use his feet to just get a bit of practice swimming on feet at all. I think I was 150 meters in and he's already 50 meters up the road. So after the first lap, where I'd already been suffering in the waves, he was already a minute clear. I think he put 2 minutes into me overall and was probably chilling on the front anyway. But yeah, managed to kind of stick to my paces and kind of effort levels, and had a really good swim in the end. I think it was a 49 minute 3.8k or 3.9k, I think it read on my watch, but let's call it 3.8k. in tough conditions as well. So I was really pleased with that. The effort seemed about right. And in the overall standings, that put me about 2 minutes clear of Liam, who came in maybe 6th or 5th or something around that in the swim. So historically, I'm a slightly better swimmer than Liam anyway, so I kind of expected that. But again, I wasn't really there to compete for the win overall. I was there to just do my powers and paces, and I wasn't really sure where I'd stack up, to be honest. It just kind of depended how well the other boys were going. But obviously it was nice to come in second. I think Nathan was only doing the swim, so I was leading the overall long course weekend because you have an accumulative time over the 3 days. So I had the bike the next day and woke up relatively early, and it's just a rolling start. You start underneath the banner and yeah, just get going straight from the gun. And it was relatively steady to begin with, I'd say. I think we rolled out a pretty normal pace. But it was a little bit haphazard because there was road bikes drafting, there was TT bikes not drafting, road bikes in between us. So there was about 4 of us that eventually managed to pull clear. And about halfway through the bike, about 2 and a bit hours in, Liam and I managed to break away, and it was just us then in the front of the race, which was cool. It was nice to kind of be battling it out with him, because I know historically, again, he's a very, very strong cyclist. So we had a little battle, I guess, but also just riding really well, really solid, both of us. And then towards the 4th hour, I think it was, I took to the front, was riding relatively solid, and we had about, I reckon it was about 10k left, maybe. And I did the old, let's do a switcheroo, take a turn to Liam, and looked back when he didn't come through. Turns out he'd lost his saddle a little bit further back before then, and had to ride the rest of the race saddleless. So I managed to put another 2 minutes into him then, which, you know, bittersweet, because obviously I would have preferred him not to have lost his saddle and us just have a normal day out together. But that meant then that I was 4.5 minutes in total up on him leading into the marathon. And all the while I was sticking to my numbers on the bike. So I planned on doing around the 300 watts mark because that's what I intend to hold for a full distance triathlon. So just held that within the race. Wasn't necessarily overexerting, but was riding solid either way. And that just managed, or ended up being 2 and a bit minutes clear of Liam because of his saddle or whatever it was. Now I kind of want to win.
Oh dear.
But I don't want to put in too much effort to win.
What,
so if he could just not try.
I think he's going to try, yeah. Josh. He's going to try quite hard, probably.
So basically, the crack is that there's 2k up for grabs for the win, which I really wasn't aware of when I entered. But I've come in with the plan of being disciplined and using it as training. But now I kind of want to go after the marathon and try and beat Liam. Oh dear.
What a pickle.
Talk to Luke. So because I was in contention for the win then and had a bit of a sniff, there was prize money on the line. I could have really done with the £2,000 prize money which was on offer. I ended up going for it, and I stuck it out as long as I possibly could. I knew the pace was far too hot for me because Liam was running so well, especially on the ridiculously challenging course that it was. And yeah, it just came to blows towards the end. Well, towards the 25k mark, my legs started cramping. I didn't take off on enough hydration because it started getting a little bit hot. I'm a heavy sweater, especially if there's not enough cooling or wind or whatever. And the pace was just really solid. So I ended up cramping, Liam went off into the distance, put a ton of time into me, made up the 4.5 minutes and loads more, and ended up winning, and I ended up ruining my legs and potentially leaving my race within training or another race. Even though Roth is my A race for the time being, I may have just kind of left my legs on in West Wales and not to be seen again, but we'll see. I really, really tried hard on that marathon and just didn't have it in me to carry on with Liam. He ran so well. But overall, I'd say that it was definitely worthwhile going. Again, like I said at the start of the video, unbelievable event and day out. I think that it was one of my favourite events to go to in a long time. I had such an amazing weekend, just enjoyed it so much as well. It's just the whole organisation of the event, the people that were there, the crowds, the spectators, the competitors, fair play, like it was incredible. So yeah, I think overall I took a lot from it. I learned a lot. I probably gained a lot in terms of just physical adaptations as well. But at the end of the day, my legs really hurt now, and I'm just hoping that I haven't taken it too far before Roth. I've got 2 weeks, or just under 2 weeks now, to recover from that. Basically just a taper now, and hopefully it goes really well, but we'll see in the coming week or two how I kind of bounce back from it.
How is that?
Do you want to count down? 1, 2, 3, let's have the pizza!
So effectively, if you're looking to do a race simulation day yourself, just make sure that you're using all of your race gear, go through everything that you're going to be using for the actual race, because that way you're learning about what equipment that works well, what doesn't work well, what nutrition works well, what doesn't work well. Hydration for me, I need to take on more, especially if it's hot. That happened in Qashqai's as well. I knew about it going into this weekend, but Liam was pushing through all of the aid stations, so I couldn't really stop and take some. So I just got carried away with the race and didn't focus on my hydration plan, which I need to be a bit more rigorous on, because at the end of the day, if you don't stay hydrated and you get 3/4 of the way through the marathon and everything cramps up, then you're stuffed. You're losing way more time than if you were to slow down at an aid station, take a drink and carry on, because then you can just carry on running normally. Yes, 10 seconds to take a drink at an aid station is a bit of a pain in the arse, and maybe the race goes away from you, but it's better than the race going away from you because your legs are completely messed up. So yeah, that's definitely something I learned, and something that you should consider when you're doing these simulation days, is just make sure that you're thinking about, what am I actually going to be doing in the race that I want to practice here on this day? How is it going to feel? What am I going to be using, taking on, etc. So that's the purpose, and I think if you're looking to do it for yourself, definitely plan that out. I wanted to practice using the aid stations on the bike as well, but it was a stop and go aid station at Long Course Weekend, so I didn't really want to stop because the race would have just gone up the road, and I wanted to be in the mix more so, using the people around me rather than practicing the aid stations. So that was a kind of cognitive decision that I made on the fly. But yeah, I think there was plenty of learnings. Stay fast, stay aero, stay controlled on the run, stay hydrated on the run. The swim went well, I was happy with that. And yeah, I think it bodes well for Roth as long as my legs come back around. Drop me a message or a comment below if you're looking to do a simulation day for whatever distance. It could be a 70.3 full distance or an Olympic distance. And the focuses may vary dependent on those distances. But yeah, drop me a message or comment. Hit subscribe, hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.